welcome. It's me, Stephen Billing. We got Andrew Grabal here, and we're here for another episode of Chasing Labels. What's up, everybody? We're here live on the YouTubes.
Yes,
Coming to you, Blu-rays.
Coming to you live from our various locations.
Yeah, we're not telling you where because we don't want you showing up at our doorsteps or anything.
Locations unknown. Yeah. But yeah, we are here on a day after we usually record.
Usually,
but we're here live for episode spy number 133. And yeah, we're back again.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. Usually we record on Monday nights. I messaged Andrew and I said, can we change it to tomorrow night? I'm just not feeling up to it. I'm a little out of it. I didn't sleep good the other night. And what it was that I stayed up really late partying after Shelf Shock Rewind. I was partying with the stars, all the winners backstage.
The after party is where it's really at, to be honest, at any award show. That's when all the cool stuff happens.
Yeah, we all, a lot of us all got on a jet. We went over to the UK where Fran from Radiance. I'm just making all this shit up, but
I'll say though, it was a star-studded fair,
wasn't it? Now,
yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah. So I wasn't as involved in the behind the scenes stuff, but of course Ryan still spearheading this. The connections he's made over the last year through all the stuff he's progressed in personally, where he's now doing feature work with someone's favorite productions. Obvious is his connections have grown, and he's been able to make he was able to get a lot of cool people to pop in and
a lot of the people that we follow on social media, I'm sure a lot of us a lot of our listeners follow, and everybody, like you just mentioned, Fran, he showed up.
Yeah, last year we were talking with Fran last year, and he wasn't quite on board yet. It was like he was a little uncomfortable about it. But I think after the first year, he realized what this was, and I think he was so much more on board.
And Radiance had a big full year, their first full year, and
yes, it was a great show.
Yeah, they were well represented. It was really cool. It was really cool. I know you had done a bunch of like commercial segments for it. Those popped up a few times, and people seem to really like them.
Yeah, I'm glad everybody. I'm glad everybody got some enjoyment out of it. And the idea to split it up was actually Ryan's. He didn't tell me he was going to do that, but he split up the commercial in 3 segments and spread it out through the show. And everybody, a couple of times I saw people being like, "When are we getting back to the funny couple?"
Nice.
Yeah, so I was like, that's nice. I'm glad everybody's like excited to see what happens next. And so, just so you guys know, now that you guys really showed a lot of spirit for that, I'm definitely gonna have to take it up a notch next year. So you'll see us back, but also I got some other ideas for a couple other commercials that I'm gonna make for next year. So hopefully I can get them done and that'll be fun. But the award show in general was just the flow of it, there was a couple times where, he had a, picked the wrong video or something, but that was like very minor. And it was late in the show, and, Ryan they'd already been like 2.5 hours in, and it's like, there's bound to be a technical difficulty or something somewhere.
Yeah.
But, it was pretty flawless though.
Yeah, I'll say we do show up we presented the nominees and winners for Best Box Set.
Yeah.
If you're interested, I marked it. It's about 2 hours and 9 minutes into the show where we make our appearance from Chasing Labels. And it was, like I said, it was really, really cool. Second year, and things looked at least they had improved over the first year. You made that progress.
A lot cleaner. And of course, and I think just the big difference because of after the first year, people understood what it was, and Ryan, where he's at, like he was able to convince a lot of people. Like you're going to see a lot of like people well-known people in this space pop up, either accepting awards or presenting awards. So a lot of interesting people that I had known about because they, they're fellow collectors. A lot of people I did not know about, so I learned some new faces, some new. Overall, very cool, very cool. Yeah.
But we have, of course, we want to get to our usual, picks
Yeah.
what we talk about this time, but there's a bit of news that dropped today.
Before you say that, yeah, I agree. Mudison box got robbed.
What?
Nothing.
It
It
was a
got
long
nothing.
shot. We loved it. I think we love that box set more than anyone for the most part.
Well,
But
I will say this. I will say this. Before and this, I'm sorry, Celeste and Ryan, if this is me giving away something, but before the show started, you know how like at the very beginning of the show, I popped in for a second to talk.
I did notice. Yes.
Yeah. Before we popped in, I was backstage with him, and Celeste started talking about the Moodieson set for whatever reason, and I popped in and was like, it's my favorite thing of the year. I typed it in the comment before they let me in, and I was like, and then they popped me in, and I was like, guys, it better win something tonight. And then, of course, it didn't win anything.
It didn't have a lot of nominations.
It didn't get a lot of nominations. It's just like the Oscars. It's like it came out really early in the year, literally in January of the year, and it got forgotten. And of course, tons of things get left off and snubbed because only so many things can win.
Very true. Very true.
But, it did upset me that it didn't get anything. Like at least packaging design would have. I mean, even best box set, or even just like
a nomination.
Or they did. It did. I think didn't get at least got one nomination. It did.
It wasn't best box set.
I think it was best packaging design. I think,
which is apropos. It was very cool.
But I think if it would have at least like won like best region A release or best region B release, that would have been nice. It should have at least been nominated for best overall release because, what's funny? There's a weird outlier in the best overall nominations this year. Something that didn't get nominated for anything else, but somehow got in there. It Follows.
No,
it was like It Follows from Second Sight, which I love the release, but it get nominated for nothing else. And it was somehow in best overall release. Yeah,
that's interesting. Just because I nominated it for a bunch of things, I just thought it was a really cool release.
I agree, but it's weird that it got nothing else.
That happens coincidentally, you brought up the Oscars. That happens at the Oscars all the time. Something will get nominated for Best Picture, but won't be nominated in like Best Director or Best Writing or Best Editing or whatever.
Sure.
And it'll just be like, oh yeah, it's a Best Picture nomination though. We're just not honoring anybody else.
I don't know. I really think Moodison that's the biggest snub of the year.
I know.
But it's okay. It's okay. We'll get over it. Before we jump into Blu-ray talk. Josephine, of course, coming in hot. And speaking of Josephine, she will be our next guest on the Unwatched Pile next Monday. So she's making her Unwatched Pile debut. And she's got some recent watches. Hey, save some of them recent watches for the Unwatched Pile. You need to let me know, Josephine, you need to let me know over message what your first time watch is going to be. But she watched Dogfight. That's a good one. Ghost in Mr. Chicken. I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool.
That's the movie starring Don Knotts. They used to randomly at Walmart. They used to sell it on DVD. Just in the Disney section because I think it was like a Disney live action film.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Red Eye. Double
with
Jeopardy.
Murphy.
Yeah.
People bringing that up now because Cillian Murphy's up for awards and stuff.
Yeah. Dragon Inn's good. That's a Chinese film, right? That's a Chinese.
Yeah, that's I think I have it.
Yeah, it said Criterion put it out.
Yes.
Yeah. And some song plays. Learn to Fly by Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters is a favorite of mine. Disarmed by Smashing Pumpkins. I love that song. Slim Shady. Yep. All good stuff.
That was a breakout for Eminem.
Let's see. She's got a question for me. Steven, which fictional movie or TV couple do you think you and Brittany are most like? Oh man.
That's a tough one.
Tough. Oh man. What are most like? Damn. I'll get back to you. Let me think about that for a minute. So hang on.
I'm trying to think of classic movie couples, and I'm trying to also think of classic TV couples as well.
And how was our
racing through my head?
Yeah, and how was our Valentine's Day? We didn't. We don't. It was in the middle of the week, so it's kind of tough to do something on Valentine's Day. But we went out to eat over the weekend before, and then on Valentine's Day or the day before, I brought home some gifts for both my wife and my daughter. So that was fun. So
That's
But
weird. That's weird that Valentine's Day was in the middle of a week. I just don't remember it
well,
being.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean that one
I
just
mean,
shows the
obviously,
kind
it
of
fluctuates every year as calendars work.
yes, they do. But
But back to the task at hand, I would
yes,
say.
let's get into to Blu-ray stuff. And yes, you said there was some interesting news that came out today.
Yes. So, as we know, Disney's always doing something. They're always doing something.
Well, this one sounds kind of interesting.
It's very interesting.
I like this one.
Yeah, remember the last time we heard them doing something physical media-wise, they were partnering up with Mill Creek, and this was, what, over a year ago?
Not so interesting. No.
Not so interesting, and that was basically for, I guess, like, re-putting out things they had already put out before. I think that was what the end result of that was going to be. I don't think we've really seen much come from that since, really. I haven't really been
Yeah.
keeping up with it, but I don't think we've heard anything earth-shattering, or else it would've hit us in some way.
We would have felt it. Yeah.
We would have heard about it. This one though is a lot interesting. So, Disney is teaming up with Sony Pictures, and so there's for I'll just read it here. This is from Bill Hunt over at the Digital Bits. It says regarding the Disney slash Sony physical media news, they actually broke this morning on the Digital Bits. We've learned the following additional information. So this is additional information, and I feel like this kind of encompasses everything. Once again, we confirm that Disney is indeed in the process of transitioning to a licensed physical media distribution deal via an agreement with Sony Entertainment. As part of the deal, Sony will market, sell, and distribute new Disney releases plus catalog titles on physical media, 4K UHD, Blu-rays, DVDs, etc. To consumers through retailers and distributors in the United States and Canada. This shift is consistent with other strategies that Disney is working to implement company-wide, as exemplified by the company's recent transitions to other markets. Per usual, Disney regularly evaluates their approach to physical media market as the home entertainment business and industry at large continue to rapidly evolve alongside consumer behavior. Things are always changing, basically.
Yeah.
This agreement will allow Disney to continue offering its films and TV shows via physical media retailers and distributors, and most importantly, to disc consumers more efficiently. The transition for Disney handing over its physical media operation to Sony has recently commenced and will probably take several months to complete, as anything does. This is interesting. The first title that will be managed by Sony on the physical media end will be The First Omen, which is coming out in theaters April 5th, 2024. So I guess that's the first new release from Disney that they'll be handling. 'Cause I believe the Omen was part of 20th Century Fox, which of course
Yeah.
Disney acquired years ago. Now they're making an Omen prequel.
Okay.
Going back to that well.
Called
But
The Omen again?
no, it's called The First Omen
Uh-uh.
because you can't have the Omen without having the first Omen, even
We
though
didn't know that Omen wasn't the first. It's the second Omen. Wow.
the trailer for I think there's a teaser trailer for it out already or a trailer for it out already, but it's in the same line as what we've been seeing with a lot of these legacy sequels or prequels
They
or
should call it
continuations.
the
Just pick
pre-Omen.
Yeah, just picking it up, trying to get, water from the stone of the franchise of yesteryear, kind of what they
Okay.
did with The Exorcist last year, what they've done with Halloween. You know what I'm saying. But anywho,
They should combine. You know how like they did it with Hannibal Lecter. They called the first one Hannibal the Beginning.
they called it Hannibal Rising.
Sorry, Rising. They should call this one the Omening.
Nice.
The Omening, like the Rising or the Beginning, the Omening.
I actually saw Hannibal Rising in the theater when it came out in
I did too.
2007.
Yeah. I can remember there being a lot of snow, and just being boring as shit. That's all I remember.
Gee, no, not happy times for you, but
Yeah, it
this
good.
deal is interesting because it could lead to happier times for us as consumers.
Yeah.
At least it's going to lead to Disney properties staying in the physical media realm.
Yeah.
When I initially heard this news, I thought it was just going to be a production end, like Sony's just going to produce the discs and Disney's gonna, put it out. But it looks like Sony's handling all of that, like the production, the distribution, the marketing. It's kind of like Disney just being like, "Hey, take this stuff and do what we would do, but just do it yourself." Like, you know what I mean?
Do what we wish we would do, but we suck at it. So
But we just don't want to do it anymore. You know what I
Well,
mean?
they want to make money. They just don't want to do the work.
That's what I'm curious about. Is
Yeah.
Disney still going to make the money from the sales? Are they still going to make the
Oh,
money
well,
from
any licensing
whatever?
deal, yeah,
Eh,
you're making. I don't know that. I think that it's built in, like it's like you estimate, what the value of something is, and then they pay it. I don't know that they'll make money off sales. Maybe a
mm.
percentage, maybe I don't know.
Well, they're
Who
obviously going to make money in the licensing deal that they're licensing out.
Sure.
Now, will this lead to are they going to put out like their usual stuff all over again that they've put out so many times? I'm talking like their classic Disney animated library, their Cinderellas,
Well,
Lion
with
Kings, Beauty and the
this
Beast.
that Disney club shut down.
That's the other news that came in. With this
Yeah.
news also came the Disney Movie Club is shutting down in May, I believe.
Yeah.
I know I never signed up for it. I always wanted to, but just never did because it was always kind of fishy of like how it all worked, and I didn't really understand how it all worked. So I just kind of never did it. I was indifferent about it. Steven, did you ever sign up for it or anything?
No, but I wanted some of the titles that were on there, like Big
There
Green
you
was on
go.
there. I was like, I mean, I grew up with that one.
Yeah, that is the one cool thing about the Disney Movie Club is that they were putting out a lot of their deep catalog stuff out on Blu-ray, and it was only exclusive through that program.
Yeah.
Granted, all of them ended up on eBay for ridiculous prices and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But movies that I had always wanted that I wish would come out like mainstream was things like, the Goofy movie and then its sequel
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Cool Runnings would be another one. A lot of Disney stuff.
Ryan's saying hope all is well.
No, so far so good.
It's
I mean,
pretty
it's a
good.
weird week.
I'm
It,
still hungover from the after party
gotcha.
of the
The
Shelf Shock.
champagne was flowing.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. I forgot that there was a holiday on Monday. So I guess
Yeah,
everyone's
the
President's Day?
it's not a good one.
Yeah, it's not one that I don't think affected a lot of people. It just
I
made
didn't
my
think
mail
about it
come a
very
day late, and it's gonna
Yeah.
make the trash be picked up a day later as
Yeah, no,
well.
it's annoying.
Yeah, I was waiting for something to come in the mail. It was supposed to come Saturday, and it never showed
They're
up.
already the president. Do they need a holiday?
I don't know. It's something weird. I don't know. I don't know if
But,
it's supposed to commemorate a birthday of one of the presidents. It's an annoying holiday, and
yeah,
like I said, not a lot of people kind of observed it. I know many people worked. Steven, I assume you worked on
I did.
Monday. There you go.
I did.
There you go. So this news is rather interesting. Like I said, it's going to keep these movies and probably perhaps newer things in the main flow of things for a while when it comes to Disney. I know that this isn't the first time someone has reached out to Sony for something like this. I know Criterion has been having their stuff manufactured by them for years,
Yeah.
like just the discs and things like that. That production side of things. So it's not uncommon, and Sony seems to be the great mercenary of this whole movie studio world. They seem to like when it comes to making stuff, when it comes to producing things, they're a mercenary. They're not really tied down to anybody. Like I said, they're one of the main studios that don't have their own dedicated streaming service per se.
Yeah.
They do have Crackle, which is technically Sony, but it's not really a streaming service. It's free with ads. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like their version of Tubi, but it's not like a Disney Plus. It's not like an HBO Max or Paramount Plus and
Yeah, it feels
Peacock,
like
which is another thing that's interesting, Stephen. Uh, Paramount and Peacock may merge their streaming services. Did you see that news?
this was a few weeks ago, but I don't give a shit.
Who
Who cares?
I'll say this: the names that people were coming up with of this new combined service were quite humorous. And
Paracock.
yep, things like that. Exactly. Exactly.
P
And
mount.
yep, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's. I was thinking this as well because I've been saying for years if there's going to be another studio that was going to be bought by somebody or was going to have to merge with somebody, I thought it was going to be Paramount, and it looks like
Well, I mean, the
that may
reason they
happen.
talked about this is because I think that the news is that Universal was going to buy Paramount. That's how it all started.
Right.
It was nothing to do with streaming services. I mean, that would be inherent.
Well, this is a stepping stone to probably get
That's
to
what I'm
that.
saying. This is
You know,
inherent. If they merged, if one
if they
bought the
merge
other,
streaming service and it goes well, the next step would be like
there's no reason
acquisition.
to pay for two streaming services. It's
Right. Yeah.
so.
I mean,
But
as it is, they've already Paramount or Viacom, whoever's running that show over there, they already absorbed Showtime streaming service into Paramount Plus. You know, things are shrinking down in terms of the streaming world, and it's only getting smaller and smaller. It's very we're living in interesting times where we saw the rise and the boom of streaming, and now we're seeing it like start to crumble and come back down. It's fascinating in real time.
Yep.
Um,
But before we move on, I do
yeah.
have my couple,
Oh,
Josephine, that we're
you did
like.
have that on the back burner. Nice.
Yes. So I would say quickly that Andy and April from Parks and Rec. So
That's good.
yeah, so Chris Pratt's
That's good.
character and Aubrey Plaza's character would be the closest. I'm not as lazy as him as Chris Pratt's character. I wouldn't say I'm as lazy as him, but the personality types are very similar. Like I'm a laid back, kind of playful type, and my wife's a little bit more stoic. Her humor is a lot drier, closer to like that Aubrey Plaza type. So that would probably be pretty close.
Nice. That's a good poll. That's a good
Yeah.
one. I do like that. Big Parks and Rec fan. But do you want to transition now to the main part of our show?
Sure, I guess.
You're ready.
Do we have to? Okay. All right,
We
let's do it.
must. Time is flowing by.
I want to talk about Disney for 2
I know we
more
want to talk about
hours.
Disney for the next hour. But let's move. So is this there were a few slates this in the last 2 weeks, but there's some individual ones I want to talk about, and
Okay.
a lot of Kino stuff. Of course, Kino's always got their hands doing things. Like heck, they just had it. They've been announcing things all the time. But I want to touch on something from Milestone, and this actually connects to something we talked about previously. So Milestone is putting out this movie called Household Saints. And the reason why this is connected to something we talked about recently is because it's Nancy Savoca. And Nancy Savoca is the same director as Dogfight.
Yeah.
And of course Dogfight's getting a Criterion release. So we're getting more of her catalog stuff being put out. I have to say, this movie is much different than Dogfight.
Not quite Dogfight.
Not quite Dogfight, but not a bad film. It's a movie that I want to see actually when it came out. It came out actually. It's a movie she did after Dogfight. So she did Dogfight 91, and then Household Saints came out in 1993. And I want to touch on the cast because the cast has Tracy Ullman, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Lily Taylor, who she had worked with in Dogfight, is in this film as well. A very young Michael Imperioli is in this film. Michael Imperioli, of course, he had a small one scene in Goodfellas. Of course, he would go on to be in The Sopranos and then other stuff after that. But most likely people know him from The Sopranos. So this movie is very interesting. So it's an unsettling drama about 3 generations of Italian American women struggling to get by in post World War II New York's Little Italy. And it kind of is. So we see like there's a lot of plot happening in this film where you see Lily Taylor's mother like grow up and get married, and Lily Taylor's mother is portrayed by Tracy Ullman, and then the person she ends up marrying is like a local butcher portrayed by Vincent D'Onofrio. And this is like post World War II. It's a period piece. It's interesting. It's New York style. I want to echo this was probably the time in which Scorsese was growing up in, because it feels like that time. Like it's Little Italy, post World War II, like that generation. So you've got a lot of clusters of people from the same culture living in the same area, and we're in like kind of just weird customs and cultures going on. Like, for example, Vincent D'Onofrio, he ends up winning in quotes, which is not great, but he ends up like winning the marriage of Tracy Ullman through her father in a poker game or something like that. It's not poker, but they're playing like Jim Rummy or something like that. They're playing some type of card game, and the father just gets super hammered and just like bets his daughter's hand in marriage in the pot.
Sounds
and
like
it's like, yep, that's how it happens.
sounds like a similar thing to one of our favorite movies, Almost Famous, where he
Yeah,
plays the card game and is like, you can take
the Band-Aids. Yeah,
Band-Aids for the tour, rest of your
for
tour.
the
Almond
tour, humble
Brothers
pie.
for the
Yeah,
well, yeah,
and a case of
yeah,
beer.
and a case of beer. Yeah,
Yeah, it's very obviously misogynistic, obviously old school thinking, obviously, you know, different worlds, different customs, different
yeah,
times. So you see that courtship, and then they have a young daughter, and the daughter grows up to be Lily Taylor. Um, and and then you get her story, what she's going through. So you're getting kind of this generational type thing going on. A lot of story, a lot of plot, very well acted. I thought it was very good. Um,
good.
yeah, so so if you get Dogfight and you're wondering what the next um movie is in this director's filmography, it's Household Saints. And like I said, it's coming out through a Milestone, and they're giving it a, I think, a 4K restoration. Yeah, it says new 4K restoration, Household Saints, starring, like I said, D'Onofrio, Tracy Ullman, Lily Taylor. Um, and I honestly, when is this coming out? April? Yeah, April 23rd. It's coming out April 23rd.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that was interesting. That was one of the earliest things that I watched. Um, Moving on from there, I guess we'll go straight to Kino just because they've got a bunch of things for us to run through.
Okay. Well,
Um,
I know you watched Pursued.
I did. Now I
I
don't
wanted
have.
to watch this so bad because
It is
Robert Mitchum.
available.
Yeah,
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 it's available on Tubi,
yeah.
which is
Robert Mitchum, Teresa Wright, Judith Anderson. Yeah, it looked. I was like, man, this looks like. And then in the description of the film, I was like, ooh, I really want to watch this. Raised by a foster family, Jeb Robert Mitchum. Any Jeb is just a cool name. Is an orphan who remains tormented by the traumatic murder of his parents when he was a child. He is treated well by his foster mother, Miss Cullum, and her daughter, Thor. Somebody's name's Thor. That's a cool name.
yeah, her name
Uh,
is Thor.
it's a badass name. But he and foster brother Adam have a tense relationship. When Jeb is shot while riding his horse, he blames Adam. But Miss Collins knows that in fact it's another member of the Cullum clan who is out to get him. Sounds like almost like a Cain and Abel situation going on.
Kind of, yeah. There's definitely shades of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is part of that subgenre of Western noir,
yeah,
which is a cool mashup to me.
yeah.
Um,
Oh
uh,
well, yeah. I mean, it is.
yeah, it's a cool mashup to me. And Pursued is a movie that I've been trying to watch for about 12 years. And there's a backstory behind that. Not too long though, Steven. Don't get too
It's not going
crazy
to
now.
take 12 years, is it?
No, God, no.
Okay.
So Pursued had already been released on Blu-ray back in 2012. It had been released by Olive Films. And this was one of their earliest releases. This is one of their earliest releases when they were putting on slipcovers on their releases. Um, and this one came out at the time, and I was just looking for Robert Mitchum movies, looking for any type of movie that was around. I had just started getting into like old Hollywood stuff and TCM and all that kind of stuff. And Raoul Walsh directed this
Yeah,
film,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that was a name that I was starting to learn who that was. So I was like, "Oh, it's a Raoul Walsh film with Robert Mitchum. I want to see it." And I had always seen this Blu-ray at one of the stores that I'd gone to frequently, but it was always too expensive. Unfortunately, a lot of the old Olive films and most of the Olive films releases had no special features, and they were pretty much just the movie on Blu-ray for the most part. So it wasn't really, worth clunking down whatever the price was at the time. And then over time, I just completely forgot to ever buy it. And then, of course,
Yeah.
Olive Films is no more. What we've learned now, Stephen, is that a lot of the movies that they had distribution rights to have lapsed. So Kino's picked up a bunch of them. You know
Mhm.
that, and Pursuit happens to be one of them. And they're putting out, I think, just a Blu-ray. Yeah, it's just a Blu-ray from a 2022 HD master by Paramount from a 4K of the 35 millimeter original camera negative and other 35 millimeter elements. So yeah, this movie's really good. Raoul Walsh is a really good director. He directed The Roaring Twenties. He directed White Heat, plus a bunch of other movies. I think he directed High Sierra as well. I'm looking at it over there and I can't tell, but yeah, great director. Mitchum's great in the film, and yeah, it's kind of about that, but there's a lot of like backstory and lore
Mhm.
and stuff that you're discovering as the character's discovering it
I
about
was gonna say
his family,
character
his
building
past.
stuff, yeah.
You know what I mean? Why are people all of a sudden after him? What is the connection between this family and his real family and all this kind of stuff? Really
Cool.
good film. I
And
dug
this
it.
look yeah, and this looks like this was a Paramount part of the Paramount deal because it's a new 4K restoration from Paramount
It
Pictures,
is. It is.
so that's nice.
So that yeah, that was definitely on my radar. Next, Steven, I just kind of threw this in there. I don't think it's necessarily something I'm going to add to my collection right away. I don't know how you feel about this film. I just want to ask you, how do
Okay.
you feel about the movie Fletch with Chevy
Eh,
Chase?
well, I just don't like Chevy Chase.
I think we've had this discussion
We've had
before.
this discussion, I'm just not a fan of his style, like, I mean, like and maybe because I mean, like, I try to keep personal things out of it, but he just turns me off, he just seems like
Mm.
such an ass.
Well,
I
that is the
yeah,
thing, is that
that's the thing,
we've
and it
heard is that he's not a very pleasant person to work
yeah,
with and stuff. Um, I've seen the movie Fletch. I've never seen the sequel Fletch Lives.
yeah,
I know they've revived Fletch now with John Hamm. They
yeah.
did a Fletch movie with John Hamm a couple of years ago. I think they either they're either making one now or they just finished making a sequel to that now with John Hamm.
See,
But I
I'm one of the weird people that doesn't really care for the vacation movies. Like I'm
ah
like not even Christmas. Like I don't even care. I really don't care for them films at all. They're not
not even
ones that
Vegas
we
Vacation.
like. I could do without them. If they were gone, it'd be fine. Like I
Thing
like
is, for me, a lot of my affection towards them is built in nostalgia because I watched them when I was young, like
and that's what I'm
VHS
saying. That's what I'm
young.
saying.
You know what I mean?
We didn't watch them growing up, so I
Oh,
really don't have an affection for them. And then when I finally got around to watching them, I'm like, he's just not funny to me. Like he's just a doofus, and he's just I
the
just I don't find his delivery that funny. Like
yeah, it's a very I don't know if goofy sense of comedy is the word, but
I don't
it
and Goofy
yeah.
doesn't buy like I like Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and
Mm,
Dumber is like one of my favorite comedies of all time, but just something about Chevy Chase just it doesn't work for me.
I got
Um,
you.
and
I got
apparently
you.
the Ham one's pretty good. That's what
Yeah,
or that's what
I do like
they
I
hear.
did like that one.
Okay, good.
Um, and so I've only ever seen Fletch, and I know a lot of people really like Fletch. So that's why I put it on this list here because it is getting brand new HD master from a 2K scan, and these had been released before. That's why it so fascinates me. And these were released by a different company. These weren't even released by Kino. Once upon a time, like these, I think these were released by whoever owns the rights,
Yeah,
which may be Universal. Yep, Universal. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And they've been re-released a bunch of times with like different cover artwork, but it's been the same disc for forever.
yeah,
And I just want to make sure Fletch Lives had gotten a Blu-ray release before, or if it was just Fletch. Yeah, Fletch Lives had gotten a Blu-ray release before in 2017. These are coming with slipcovers, so if you're a fan of these films, and I know there are a bunch of fans of these films, um, these probably for you. I mean, I kind of almost just want the first one because I have seen it and I do like it. Um, but yeah, so I decided to add that to my list. I'm losing my place here. Ah, there we are. I couldn't find the right tab.
mhm.
But the big one, Steven, this is a big one that dropped about a week ago. High Noon is getting a 4K UHD and Blu-ray release from Kino. And I know this was on a lot of people's
This is
radar.
another Olive one. So I have the
Yes,
Olive release of that, I
yes.
believe.
Olive had, I believe, released this twice, if memory serves. Um, they released it in a regular Blu-ray release in 2012, that golden year, right on the time they released Pursued, and then they released it again in a signature edition in 2016 with new transfer and more special features, stuff like that. Um, yeah, so this is kind of a big release. This is,
Yeah,
of course, directed by Fred Zinnemann. This stars Gary Cooper, Lloyd Bridges in this film, Grace Kelly. Very controversial film for when it came out. Um, so much so that a lot of people in Hollywood weren't very much fans of the message of the film. Um, a lot of politics, a lot of political allegories and themes in this film. Uh, but I just wanted to see if indeed, yeah, it's going to come on 2 discs with most of the special features being on the second disc. 2 new audio commentaries, one by Alan K. Rhodey, one by Julie Kirgo. Like I said, it's gonna get a new master and 4K scan. This is probably gonna look amazing. This is gonna be a hot
Oh, I'm
seller, I
sure.
think.
I'm sure.
I
Well,
got a feeling April 16th is gonna be a hot day for this movie to come out.
it's been released so many times, though. I don't know. I don't know
Well, it's a
how
classic, you
it
know?
is. It is, but um, I don't know. I don't know. Is this like? I know it's a classic, but is it as popular as some of the other Western titles? Like to
Oh,
get
yeah.
is you
I think
think
it's like I think it's one of the most popular westerns ever made.
really?
Yeah.
I
I think
guess I don't feel the same way about the movie.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
I own it. Um,
Oh, so do I.
and I like it, but it's not like a top Western for me. Yeah.
I do, yeah. I understand what you mean. There are other westerns of the same era that I like a lot more, and of course, the spaghetti westerns are a whole other bag of a
Yeah.
whole other can of worms after that era. Uh, but yeah, I think it's super popular, super well known. A lot of buzz when this was announced, and I'm probably gonna end up buying it. I'm gonna have to go and check to see if it looks like all of the Olive Films um, special features are gonna transfer over, or at least a couple of them. I'm just glazing back and forth very quickly, so don't quote me on that. But it does look like most of them are, which is good because I don't want to have to track down that out of print release. Uh,
Well, I mean, I think it's good that they're. I mean, we say this about any, not re-release, but well, I mean, I guess re-release or anytime there's an upgrade, it's nice to get new features, like you said, new commentaries, because even though the old ones are still useful and they're still good, getting new perspective with more time can always, give you something different about your view of the film. So these two other new commentaries might give you something perspective on the film that you might not have had. So
it's also
uh,
nice to hear some new, like you're just saying, like some new people, new blood, fresh perspectives.
yeah,
Modern day perspectives are a lot different than a perspective from
you're
10,
repeating.
20
You're
years
literally
ago.
repeating what I'm saying.
Yes, I
Yeah,
am. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
stalling for time
Thanks,
while I
man.
figure out what else to
I
talk about.
appreciate it. I appreciate you
Thanks.
supporting what I said.
Yeah, I got your back. I got your
Yeah.
back.
All right.
I'm just looking at what I'm going to talk about next, and
All right.
I think I'm going to go below, as in a
Okay.
movie called Below from
Uh, oh.
2002.
Oh. Okay. All
So
right.
this is getting a 4K UHD release with a brand new HDR Dolby Vision master, and I don't believe this movie's ever been released on Blu-ray. I have to check. Um, and I always say that, and then I always check, and then I'm always
It's had 25
dismayed.
releases.
So no, there was a Spanish release in
Mm,
2021,
you've
a-
been wronged.
and then I think I have no idea what country that is, because on Blu-ray.com they only have the flags, and I'm like, what flag is that? Oh, a Russian release in
Mm,
2013 on Blu-ray. So nothing here, but this movie is interesting because it's kind of a time capsule piece of a film from 2002. It's a submarine film. It's a movie that feels like an action film from that era.
yeah.
What we call this type of movie now is a dad movie. Steven, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
And this is very much in that realm.
So like Crimson Tide, but
Crimson Tide, what was like U571, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like movies around that same time that dealt with like military stuff from wars years ago, World War II
yeah.
specifically. Um, and this movie is directed by David. I can never pronounce this man's name. Tui. I can never
Sure.
pronounce his name. I've never been able to, but he directed Pitch Black
Mm.
with Vin Diesel, starting the whole Riddick franchise. He also directed Chronicles of Riddick. He also directed the Riddick film from 2013.
Very,
Very
very,
illustrious career here.
very
Um,
big career with Vin Diesel. Apparently, he really
yes,
likes working with him.
yeah. He also directed A Perfect Getaway, which is a movie no one remembers. But I think he was also the screenwriter of The Fugitive.
Well, that
Yeah,
changes everything.
and
How I
and the
yeah.
screen yeah, he was a screenwriter of G.I. Jane and screenwriter of Waterworld, Terminal Velocity,
Well, I'm
Critters
changing my.
2,
I
the
was
main
I was I
course.
was a little down on him. Now I'm like in the middle. I'm a little in the middle
Yeah,
now.
yeah, I feel you. But this movie, like I said, is very much in that vein. Let me get yeah. So it says strange happenings occur on a World War II submarine. Thank you, IMDb, for not helping me in the slightest with
Good.
describing this to
That
people.
really painted a picture for
Yeah,
me.
what a tapestry of just
I don't
vivid
think
imagination.
IMDb saw the movie.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think whoever wrote that just did not care that day whatsoever. Now I've got to scroll down on Letterboxd to get something to tell the people. Okay, here we go. "See beneath the surface, terror runs deep." What a tagline. In the dark silence of the sea during World War II, the submarine USS Tiger Shark prowls on what should be a routine rescue mission. But for the shell shocked crew trapped together in the sub's narrow corridors and constricted spaces, this is about to become a journey into the sensory delusions, mental deceptions, and runaway fears that lurk just below the surface of the ocean. So, what ends up happening in this film is that they pick up some survivors of a wreckage. That's what their job is, to pick up survivors of this wreckage. And what ends up happening is just a series of things start going wrong on this submarine. And it starts playing with the minds of the people on the ship. Like, it starts to make them like hear things that aren't there, see things that aren't there, kind of go a little stir crazy, a little, things aren't going well in their heads, stuff like that. And the movie kind of goes deeper and deeper, literally into the ocean
yeah.
and into their psyches to what's going on. The movie doesn't go deep enough into that kind of craziness to really like. It's not. It's kind of like Event Horizon Light on a submarine,
Mm.
if you know what I'm saying. It doesn't go quite to that depth of what Paul W.S. Anderson was doing on that crazy movie, but it feels like it's trying to go for that. It's fine. It's entertaining. It's kind of like I said, a relic of its time in which it came out. But yeah, I'm more fascinated that it's getting a 4K UHD release when it didn't really have anything here in the ways of a Blu-ray release. So that's kind of cool. But the cast of this movie, I failed to mention, is pretty stacked with people who we know of now. Um, Whereas back at the time they were probably not so well known. Bruce Greenwood, um, Dexter Fletcher, who was in a bunch of
Well, he
uh
directed. He's the director too.
yeah, he did well. He stepped in to direct Bohemian Rhapsody when all that went kind of fell apart. But then he
The
also did the much
I was gonna say
superior
the much better.
Elton John film with Taron Egerton as Elton
Yeah,
John. Why is the movie title escaping me, Steven?
a Rocket Man.
Rocket Man, yes. Only hit one of his most famous songs. That movie's amazing, by the way. I think it's
It's
stunning.
it's like it's one of them things. It's like a lot of films these days. They go through, and then they're just kind of forgotten. And that movie didn't get anything in the I think in the award
Yeah,
season or
and the
anything.
award season was completely forgotten. I
It's
thought it
because
was
the year
incredible.
before they gave all the awards to Bohemian Rhapsody,
Very true.
so they
Remember,
couldn't
I
do
I
it 2
remember us
years in a
talking
row.
about that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like I said, Bruce Greenwood's in here, Holt McElhaney, who was in the series on Netflix, the David Fincher series that everyone loved and wants to come back, Mindhunter.
Mindhunter, yeah.
Yeah, he was also recently in The Iron Claw, great in that film. That movie's amazing as well. But you have, like I said, Dexter Fletcher, Olivia Williams is in this film. I know her. She was in a Rushmore. She played the teacher that Jason Schwartzman had an asphyxiation for in Rushmore. She was also in a bunch of other TV series as well. Um, and I've just known her for a long time. There's a bunch of other guys here that are like character actors that you'll remember if you go here on IMDb and check out their stuff. Recognizable people. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, that's Below. Moving on from Below. What else do we have from Kino? Looking at our show notes. Is that oh, big one here. Nostalgia. Okay. Now
Now
by
this is
big
the Tarkovsky film?
this is the Tarkovsky film. Um this is a movie like you wouldn't believe. So, I've said this many times. There are certain directors who intimidate me, who scare me, who I'm afraid to approach their work without being fully prepared. Um, and Tarkovsky's one of them, and Nostalgia was one of those films for me, and I finally got to watch it. Um, so I can't even describe to you what this movie's about. All I know is that you experienced this movie, but it's getting a 4K UHD release in April 23rd. It's getting a Blu-ray release done at the same time. So I'll just read this here. At a spa in the Tuscan Hills, a Russian poet and musicologist researching the life of an 18th century composer meets a mysterious man who is convinced that the end of the world is nigh. The Russian Andrei Gorchakov is asked to cross an ancient sulfur pool carrying a lighted candle as an act of faith. Tarkovsky's first film outside the USSR is full of personal and Christian symbols and works as a study of such themes as memory, melancholia, and disenchantment with the material world. Yes, I think that's what the movie's about,
Sure.
and I've seen it. The movie is very much in that vein of Stalker, where you're just kind of experiencing what you're seeing on screen. You don't really know what's going on. It doesn't really have a plot. It's not really a character piece. It's a deeply thematic work. The visuals are stunning beyond stunning, and you're just here for the vibes. You really are. You're just here to experience the purity of cinema washing all over you. You know what I mean?
I have this movie on Blu-ray and I haven't watched it yet. So
it's not, his work is not easy to just dive into. When I was going to watch it, I'm like, Tarkovsky's not a director you just pop on at any time.
Yeah,
really
I
isn't.
thought about watching some Tarkovsky where I was watching my baby the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
While she's trying to play with me, I should just try to watch Tarkovsky.
Just try to watch some Russian cinema.
Yeah,
Russian art house cinema. It's tough work to get into, but if you just give yourself over to it, you may have a time. Like, you can't fight it. You just got to go for the. You got to go for it.
I had one of the crazy. Thinking about it now, I think about how crazy I was. I don't know why I chose this. I think it was me trying to push myself, but I did a double feature one day, and this literally took like almost all day of Tarkovsky's. What's the big one?
Stalker, Solaris.
Stalker, yeah, Stalker. I watched Stalker, and then after Stalker, no, I watched Stalker second. The first one I watched was the Edward Yang film.
Yi?
No, the other one. The long one, the 4-hour one. Brighter Summer.
Brighter Summer, yeah.
Something Brighter Summer. I watched them two films back to back. So it was like 8 hours of movie, like straight. Why I did it, I don't know.
Wild,
it was
man.
A wild day. Like
Brighter Summer Day. A brighter summer day.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. These are directors, man. They will take you on a trip into like the purest cinema you've ever seen. After you watch
it was a good double bill. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. After you, I've done crazy things like that.
Yeah,
I've gone on challenge myself. I've gone on like Bergman trips of just watching Bergman films back to back, and it's just like you come out of it like a completely different person.
Yeah, I just remember
a trip.
I remember ending Brighter Summer Day and being like, God, this is tough. This is a tough movie. And then I'm like, okay, let's get a little surreal. I know a little bit about Stalker. Let's get into this. And then it's just like a guy riding on a train for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You're like,
that's
okay,
the one. Yeah. That's
where's
the one
going?
thing with Tarkovsky. The pacing is not his thing. For example, in Nostalgia, there's no coverage. It's all like all wide shots, all establishing shots. Like there will be, the camera will just sit there and things will play out in the frame, and it just sits there and just let things happen. Just let things happen. I'm going to talk about another director soon that just does that same thing as well. But the pacing is a little bit better. I'm hinting at when we talk about Criterion, when we talk about Ozu. Because Ozu is notorious for not moving the camera.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thanks. We're glad you're enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. We're just talking about Tarkovsky and how Nostalgia is just a movie that you can't really put into words. You have to experience it. And I can't wait to re-experience it in 4K. And I know that Kino's had that Blu-ray for a long time. Like I used to think that Criterion had Tarkovsky stuff, but no, Kino's had a bunch of it for years.
Yeah.
But yes, I think there's one here that I think came out 2014. That's out of print now.
Yes, I'll add Santandango to the end of. I would make it a triple bill and add that to the end.
I still need to get that.
Yeah.
movie just so I can have it to own it. Um, it's just because I don't have any Arbalos in my collection, and I went to their website
Your
because I didn't
Arbalest?
realize.
Your Arbalest?
Yeah, I'm Arbalest, I guess. And I went to their website, and I didn't realize that they have limited edition, like, website exclusive editions of some of their releases.
Yeah.
And they're pretty cool. They're
Yeah.
pretty cool. They have their slip covers are like cases, like like
Mhm.
like cases you flip open and
Yeah.
take out, like briefcase style. Thought that's pretty cool. Um, but anyway, I just went on their website and signed up for an account.
Cool.
Uh, but moving on from nostalgia, because that was just one of the bigger ones, literally. What else do we have from Kino? Anything else, or do we want to
How
move
about
along?
yeah, let's move along. How about I saw that well no, there's one Kino here I'll bring up. Lady Killers in 4K.
Oh yes, that was announced yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was so glad when that got announced.
Yeah, yeah. I do have the Studio Canal 4K.
I was
It
gonna
came out.
nice, nice.
It's a good one. Like to be honest, like when Studio Canal puts out a 4K, I'm like jumping on it. Like and I know we'll talk about one that just got announced and then got another announcement from Criterion, very quickly. But
Mm,
that Studio Canal, anytime the Studio Canal puts it out, not only the presentation, but like they tend to add features. That's not something that Criterion does. So I can tell you that alone is one reason why I'll probably not need to buy Lady Killers again.
yeah,
Is that it's going to have an emphasis on not only packaging was better, but it's got probably more feature stuff. This is the same restoration from Studio Canal, so
I'm assuming it was because
it's what
that
it says right here.
yeah, that
Yeah,
Studio
so
Canal release was from 2020, and then they put out, I think, a standard edition in 2021.
yeah,
What is fascinating about this release, that you just I'm really glad you mentioned it, is typically the way things have rolled here in the US is Lionsgate has put out certain Studio Canal releases here on Blu-ray, and that's not the case now. And that's been going on since like 2010 because they put out a Blu-ray of The Lady Killers in 2010, and it was the Studio Canal release version. So I don't know what the heck the deal's going up with that. Why all of a sudden Kino stepped in and is like, you know what, we're gonna put out the 4K
mm,
from them, as opposed to Lionsgate. Because I know I have a Lionsgate edition of Ran, and I have the Lionsgate edition of the Third Man that are Blu-rays from that era, from that time frame.
yeah,
Um, Man, I would love if Criterion would get a hold of those and re-put those out. They did surprise us though with a reacquisition, so you never know. You never
yeah.
know now.
Could be working towards it, man.
So yeah, I can't wait to get this. This is it's a really fun film. It stars Alec
Yeah,
Guinness, Peter Sellers,
great cast. Yeah.
great cast in it. It was remade by the Coen brothers with starring Tom Hanks. Have you
That,
ever seen that version?
yeah, it's not as good, but it's still fun. I mean, I like seeing Tom Hanks play villain. Um, and it's the Coen brothers. It's hard not to like it somewhat, but it's not quite. It doesn't quite have the I don't know how to describe it. Like it doesn't quite have the storytelling, like the way the story's told in the original just feels more. Um, it just feels more not edgy, but like weird. It's got a weirdness to it. Like I
Yeah,
don't know. It's
I know
hard.
what you mean.
I
I
think
know
it's
what
a
you
little
mean.
more over the top with the Coen brothers. They over the top it.
Yeah, because
You
the
know.
Coen brothers comedy is a unique acquired taste of
Yeah, yeah.
comedy. Um, so sometimes it doesn't work for people, and then
Well,
sometimes it does.
I don't mind their comedy. It's just I think that the situation in the story is something that is like it's like it could happen, but like when you do it the Coen Brothers way, it's like it kind of feels like it's a farce more than it
Mm,
is like something that
yeah,
is like
it's
really good. Like
farcical.
it's not real. Like something that's inherently funny, like the situation.
Right,
Like
and for those of you yeah, and for those of you who don't know the premise of The Lady Killers, the movie came out in 1955, directed by Alexander McKendrick, which that name should be ringing bells in people's heads, the same person who directed Sweet Smell of Success.
ding,
So
ding, 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 ding.
that should be ringing off in your head. Underrated director in my opinion. I wish more of his work was available because Sweet Smell of Success is amazing. But for those of you, like I said, don't know the premise is thus: five oddball criminals planning a bank robbery rent rooms on a cul-de-sac from an octogenarian widow. That's a word. Under the pretext that they are classical musicians. So they're pretending to be classical musicians because they're setting up a bank robbing heist. But I think this woman kind of just gets in their way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of a, you know,
It
you're
sounds
playing
like
on
a
like old people just doing wacky things. You know what I mean?
it sounds like a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, it really does.
But it's just like maybe it's just a little too on the nose for Coen Brothers, and like
If you've
you
seen
know,
just seeing the trailer for the Coen Brothers one, you can tell how over the top they play it.
yeah,
Like like if you just look at a picture of Tom Hanks in the role, he looks like a goof. Like he looks like
yeah,
like he looks like he's a villain twirling his mustache. He's
yeah.
dressed like Colonel Sanders. I mean, it's ridiculous. You
They
know?
should have played it a little bit closer to like they should have made it a little more serious instead of that kind of oddball thing that they do. Um,
Right,
I think it would
right.
have played. I think it would have played better if somebody like maybe. Funny enough, if somebody like a David Fincher did it,
That'd be a little
it
serious.
would be serious. But like,
Yeah.
think
A
about like
Gone Girl version of the Lady Killers.
but think about like when his movies are funny. There, it's like think about Fight Club. Fight Club is actually kind of funny. The movie's
Go
funny
on.
in a lot of time, a lot of the movie, but it's like this really dark humor. Well, that's what this movie is. It's dark. It's
Mm,
dark. I mean, that's just me. But plus I'd like to see David Fincher try to do a comedy. But
yeah.
yeah,
That would be interesting. It's kind of like how Christopher Nolan says he wants to direct a horror film.
yeah.
Like, I wanna see that.
Well, I do.
Although
It's just I
although
don't want to see a $200 million horror movie. So
although Insomnia is kind of his horror movie.
uh, I guess
Don't you
you could.
think
It's
so?
kind of I mean, it's a serial killer story,
Right.
but it's not quite a. I mean, I think when he thinks horror movie, I think he's thinking like something on the maybe a little bit on the fantastical. Maybe I
Or
don't
more
know.
I understand more traditional horror. But
Maybe
it is a movie dealing with horrific elements.
yeah.
Insomnia is.
It
Even something
definitely
like
is. I mean, the thing is a lot of his movies have horror element, like,
oh,
even
yeah.
something like The
I
Prestige
was just thinking The Prestige in my head, yeah.
is pretty like a sci-fi kinda horror in a way, and like he says about Oppenheimer, like, a lot of it is kind of like horror
Oh,
and
that is literally, horrific. Creating
yeah,
the atom bomb and
yeah.
what it would ultimately end up being used for
Hey,
is horrific.
what is the NE on your shirt, Andrew? You can I know, but
Oh, it's an A for New England.
yeah, the Patriots, the
Yes.
football team. He's a movie guy, but he likes sports too.
To be honest, I don't have a lot of movie-related apparel. One, because it tends to be expensive,
Well,
and
it can be. Hey,
usu
somebody, if anybody wants to get Andrew a gift for his birthday or something, get him a label shirt. You maybe get him like a Severin shirt or
something
get him
like
a.
I don't own any of that. I know, Steven, you do. You've
I have
got,
a few.
like,
Yeah, I got like
Criterion and
yeah,
stuff like that, and Indicator.
Vinegar
I've seen you
Syndrome.
sport those.
Yeah.
Um, Thing is, I have a lot of T-shirts, but the irony is, um, the summer here is only like 3-4 months out of the year, which I guess is what the usual season is. So the rest of the year, it's pretty cool here from like fall all the way up through now. Um, that's why I'm always in sweatshirts and such. But let's move on from
Okay.
Lady Killers to someplace else. I know we talked a little bit about Radiance earlier when we were talking about Shelf Shock Rewind. I guess we'll might as well go over to Radiance because they
All right.
did have some stuff that they announced. And they announced three things that are coming out. When are these coming out, Steven?
In a time period.
No, yes, yes. I love how on the website it doesn't really tell you when it's coming out, unless I'm completely. You know what? I have to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Now I remember. These are their May titles.
Okay.
Yes, these are their May titles. So we've got Shinobi, which is a 3-film Japanese film box set dealing with ninjas, which is
Cool.
awesome.
I like ninjas.
Planet of the Vampires. This is very much a cult sci-fi film from the 50s, if I believe. This is one that has been released before, and this is definitely a cult hit amongst people. Um, I just want to make sure I'm right about. Yeah, Planet of the Vampires. I think had actually coincidentally had a release from Kino just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Planet of the Vampires. Yeah, it had a release in 2022 actually. Planet of the Vampires from Kino Lorber. Of course, yeah, that's the Region A release, and this would probably be Region B. My guess is Region B locked.
I know Fran had said in a tweet, I believe, saying that he worked to try to make this a 4K release, but it just didn't end up happening. So, so yeah, this is probably the Region B edition.
Ironically, if you go on the website, it says Region A, B, and C.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
Man,
Oh, well, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
Region
Either
free.
way, this is a Mario Bava film,
Yeah.
which surprised the hell out of me, because I don't associate Mario Bava with science fiction. I associate Mario Bava with horror, and stuff like that, like Italian horror films of that time. But this is a very interesting film. It feels like an episode of Star Trek. It's in that vein. I think that's what gives it its charm. So this came out, 1965. So I was wrong about the whole 50s thing. So 1965, after planet, a team of astronauts began on each other, swayed by the uncertain influence of the planet and its strange inhabitants. Just by the title alone, you can assume what those inhabitants are. You can kind of guess. This movie's not really hiding things from you in any way. They're really putting themselves right in your face. But yeah, this movie feels like a Star Trek film, like the way the sets are built, obviously the special effects at the time, the way they utilize that. All sets, you can tell, built sets and things like that. Like I said, it's a cult, kind of post-atomic age sci-fi, which is a very interesting time period. You've got that time period in between like atomic age sci-fi and Star Wars, where you've got a mixture of very interesting science fiction where they're kind of building the genre up to what it's going to end up being that we know of.
Yeah, didn't like Planet of the Apes come?
Planet of the Apes came out during that time. Of course, you had the Star Trek series. Then, obviously, Star Trek the motion picture wouldn't come out until I think after Star Wars was such a big hit. Then they would make Star Trek the motion picture, then all the other Star Trek films. Of course, you would then get the revival of Star Trek: The Next Generation in the 80s into the 90s. And I don't need to go on that whole history with everybody, but you understand what I'm saying is that there's that time period in between like the 50s and 70s where we're just like trying things out in the sci-fi genre. It's like we don't have the technology yet, but we've got all of the ideas behind it but not the tools to pull it off yet. That's when George Lucas would come in and kind of pull, marry the two ideas and the way to pull it all off. So that's really cool. And there's a third release here, and it's a movie called, I think, Trenque Lauquen. I think that's how you pronounce it. I didn't get a chance to watch this because the movie is, I believe, 260 minutes long.
That's
which is a bit of a time.
Not quite my double feature, but okay.
Yeah. This is a 2-disc edition for obvious reasons. And it's a movie that I wasn't aware of, and it's a recent film. It's a film that I think came out either last year or in 2022. And it's a movie that I think is told in 2 parts, hence the length of it. And I think it's a bit of a mystery. That's not the movie I'm looking for it on Letterboxd. I've got to scroll down, and I don't know where it is. That's not it.
You got to be better prepared for this.
I do have to be better prepared. I don't know why
this is a live show now, Andrew.
Oh, there it is. I was looking at the wrong thing. With the strange disappearance of Laura, with the strange disappearance of Laura, 2 colleagues, her older brother Raphael and Ezekiel, learn of their recent discoveries, which may help them locate her. However, the story is bigger and stranger than they could imagine. It's a very ambiguous synopsis. It makes me intrigued. It almost makes me feel like it's more of like a mini series. That's what I thought when I saw the length of it at 260 minutes. because I thought it was like maybe a 2 or 3-part miniseries or something like that,
Mm.
and it's not. It's just a very long 2-part film, and it is available to stream or rent more appropriately on like Apple TV, Google Play, and YouTube. So I didn't get to see it, but I'm very intrigued by it, and I know there's a much longer, um, much longer description here. And some people say there's someone who wrote this. They gave it a 5-star review. Says with hints of a Latin American Twin Peaks or X Files. That intrigues the hell out of me.
What?
Yeah, that gets me. It says Trenque Lauquen plucks the bizarre out of the everyday to laid back but altogether magical effect. That's interesting.
Hmm.
That's an interesting quote there. You had me at Twin Peaks and X Files combination.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, once again, cool, interesting slate. Of course, them 3 ninja films.
Yes,
Are
I did
really
want to kind of harp on that for a little bit, for like a
well, a
second.
little bit,
I did
but
get to watch the first film, and it is pretty damn awesome.
that's what I hear. And just so everybody knows, there is actually a lot of films in this franchise. But Fran chose the first 3 because I think the first 3 are the only ones that are based on previously written material. That's why
Yes.
So the other films in the franchise were all kind of like original ideas to continue the series.
Yeah,
So
yeah, like you just said, I think it's based on a book or book series,
yeah,
and then yeah, only the first 3 movies are
or
adaptations of that.
yeah. So
So
that's why
he
he
decided to go
did
with that.
3. Yeah,
Yeah, but there are many more. Like there's like a 5 or 6, the 5th or 6th film. But yeah, it's awesome ninja stuff happening in
yeah,
these films. I got to watch the first one, like really cool. Yeah, once again, this is not something that's easy to find. I don't believe it's been available. Also, when it comes to movies like this, sometimes you get um different names, so you got to look for them under different titles, and that can be difficult. But I think this is a Region A release because it hasn't been released here before at all. And the 3 film, we should probably mention what the 3 films are before we move on. It's Band of Assassins, Revenge, and Resurrection.
yeah.
But they have other names too. I won't go into all of them, but it's very fascinating how they all have, like, I think Shinobi yeah, it's like um Shinobi no Mono, I think, is the first film, and then the second film is Shinobi no Mono Vengeance. No, Shinobi no Mono 2 Vengeance, and then the third film is um, Shinobi no Mono 3 Resurrection. I think Shinobi no Mono is just Japanese for ninja
Mm.
or something like that. So you don't understand what I'm saying. It's like Ninja 2, Ninja 3.
The 3 Ninjas.
Yeah.
Great,
Bring
great
me back.
ninja movie.
Brings me back. What a what a
I'm
time
sorry,
it was
I
growing
saw
up.
you. I started making you think about time again.
No, yeah, I didn't know, because that was like my introduction to like ninjas and stuff. Is like 3 ninjas and then
About
Teenage Mutant Ninja
the
Turtles.
Ninja Turtles. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely the turtles.
yeah.
But yeah, let's move on from Radiance. Once again, they're putting out some really awesome stuff. Box set plus 2 individual releases. Yeah, they're already into May with their stuff, so they're moving right along.
Fran, you need to calm down.
No, serious, I can't keep up. Let's see, where do we go from here? Do you want to go to Criterion or do you want to go to Indicator? Indicator's got 1 release, but it's a big one.
Yeah, well, let's do Criterion. That was announced earlier.
Right on, right on.
All right, so Criterion had a nice slate.
Of
Some
5 movies.
yeah, some stuff that's been upgraded and some new stuff here. So the upgrades, the big one here, we got Peeping Tom getting a 4K. As we said, or I was hinting at earlier, we did get a Studio Canal putting out a 4K. Of course, it's already out. I already have it. It's awesome. But now Criterion's upgrading their Blu-ray to 4K.
Actually, they never put it out on
Oh
Blu-ray.
no, wait, it was just a DVD.
It was a DVD that was out of print for years.
Yep. So
then,
this is making its way back, and I believe this has all got the same features. And now with the new 4K restoration. Yeah, I mean, Peeping Tom, we've talked about it before. It's a great film, very influential. Michael Powell directed, And of course, Martin Scorsese loves this film.
Yeah, I think he does an introduction for it.
Yeah, it's that and Thelma Shoemaker.
Yeah, she does an interview for it. Well, she was married to Michael Powell.
She was married to Michael Powell. So yeah,
Stephen, if you remember, once upon a time, we did a whole episode on Peeping Tom back in the Cinema Discovery Project days, in the early days of our podcasting. Did a whole episode just dedicated to Peeping Tom, and because it's such a fascinating movie way ahead of its time. Coincidentally, it was the movie that kind of ruined Michael Powell's career, even though now it's looked upon as being, amazing.
Yeah,
it came out the same year as Psycho. Yet Psycho is kind of remembered, of course, for being as notorious as it is, and then this movie's kind of forgotten, I guess. And then, of course, it's been reloved by cinephiles over the last several years, and now that it's coming out once again in 4K. I know there was a Blu-ray that had been out in the UK for years, and I was hoping for a Blu-ray here, and now we're getting a 4K here as well as the Blu-ray Criterion, whichever one you get. Who cares? Yeah, I can't wait. This was awesome reacquisition from them. Like I said earlier.
Yeah, I would say the only thing I really love about the Criterion edition here, I love the artwork here. I love this artwork. I wish I could take this artwork and put it on. Oh yeah,
it's got him looking through the
film reel.
The film reel, looking through the holes in this film reel. That's
which the Studio Canal uses like the original art, and it looks nice. It's good.
Right,
but that edition's a better idea. I believe this is that's the Studio Canal is the one for me to get. And I'll hold on to mine, and because it's got it's got 3 new features, and it's also got these introductions as well, and it's got like different audio commentaries than this.
You know what? I know exactly what you're saying. It's because I still want these. Was it Studio Canal that put out The Servant?
Yeah. Yes.
And they also release of The Servant blows the Criterion one.
Yeah.
To smithereens.
Yeah.
And that's no shade on Criterion. It's just looking at the special feature packaging versus each other, and that one.
Well, you got to think too. They're British films. Like that. Peeping Tom's a British film.
Yeah, very true.
So the UK, they're gonna maybe put a little bit more oomph into the release, I think. So,
or maybe even have access to.
Same with The Servant. It's Joseph Losey's a British filmmaker,
right? Yeah, and Peeping Tom is, man, I just can't get over how great that movie is.
And there's some great, and I've already watched the new features. They're fantastic. I mean,
awesome.
It's really good stuff. But moving on from there, we also got another re-release, and this is one of the big directors of the Criterion Collection, Ozu.
Yes, this was nice.
Yeah, this is a nice upgrade here of Ozu's. It's a double feature of A Story of Floating Weeds and Floating Weeds.
Yes.
And so this is a Blu-ray upgrade, I believe.
Let me look. Yes, it is.
Yeah, so
just a Blu-ray upgrade, but coming from a DVD.
Yeah.
And from a DVD that I'm pretty sure has been in the collection for many, many years. Like I want to say 20 years, maybe.
I think the number on this one's like 200 and something, maybe.
Yeah, they've had Ozu in their collection for a long time. The DVD. Oh man, the DVD came out in 2004.
Yeah. This is an old one.
Yeah. So this was an upgrade long overdue in any type of way. This is an interesting. You said double feature, which is technically true. 2 films, same disc, whatever, or 2 films, same release. But it's one of those times where you have a director going back and remaking a film from early on in his career. Yeah. Not even early on, like 25 years apart. The first film, The Story of Floating Weeds, came out in 1934, and then Floating Weeds came out in 1959. So we're talking massive time differences in someone's career, and you can tell by watching these films the difference in just how he was as a filmmaker in 1934 versus how he is as a filmmaker in 1959, which is towards the end of his career. I think this is like the 4th to last film that he made before he passed away in 1963. And it's just like you're watching a master at work in 59 versus somebody like just starting out in 1934 who's it's a lot more raw, a lot less polished, a lot more, I don't know, I don't know how to say amateurish is too negative of a word to say, but you can just tell the difference in time and the difference in how he was as a filmmaker and how his filmmaking grew over the 25-year period. And it does go back to what I was saying earlier, similar to Tarkovsky, not a director who really moves the camera a lot. Tarkovsky, but Ozu never really moves that camera. It just stays there. It doesn't like, there's no shot reaction shots. The camera doesn't really pan when people are moving for the most part, man. When he moves the camera, you notice it because you're like, wait a minute, this is not supposed to be happening right now. But it's a brilliant, subtle filmmaking in Ozu's work. And this is, this was after he had done Tokyo Story, after he had done Late Spring, after he had done all of the work that are not only in the collection, but that we saw. So it's interesting going back to that, because some directors do that. They do remake movies from early on in their career. We saw it with Alfred Hitchcock, The Man Who Knew Too Much. He did one in the 30s and one in the 50s as well, like a 20-year difference. Michael Haneke did it. The movie that's in the Criterion collection. Why am I blanking on it? I can't remember the one with the it's a brutal film.
Wait, what'd you say? Wait, what was the description of? I was reading something.
Michael Haneke.
Oh, you're talking about shit. He remade his own movie.
Yes, he did. I gotta read. Funny Games.
Funny Games. Jesus.
Yeah, he did like an American shot-for-shot remake of it.
Michael Pitt is in
but
it.
like 10 years later after he had made the first one.
Naomi Watts.
Michael Pitt. That was the American version.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a shot-for-shot remake, and we've seen other directors.
He Gus Van Santed his own movie.
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. It's interesting. You do see some directors go back, and they won't straight up remake their earlier films, but they'll go back and take elements that they utilized in their early films, and then they'll redo them again, but they'll do them now, knowing from their past mistakes, knowing how to do them, but do them better. We've seen that happen all the time. Hitchcock did that all the time. A lot of directors, modern day directors, do that all the time. I mean, Scorsese has gone back to the well and done a lot of things that he's done in similar films. Heck, he's making another Jesus movie, and he made one in the 80s, Last Temptation of Christ.
It's like, this time I'm going to get Daniel Day-Lewis to play Jesus, and he's not going to have a Brooklyn accent. I promise.
Yeah, I can tell you. Well, we will
no Brooklyn accents in this Jesus.
No Harvey Keitel as Judas. It's interesting how directors go back and refine their work, and they're kind of learning as their careers go on.
It would be funny if in his new movie, Daniel Day-Lewis plays Jesus, of course, but he has his Irish accent. It's like, why is there an Irish Jesus?
Yeah. Imagine him as with his method acting and all that stuff.
It's good. He's gonna probably nail his own self.
I was thinking that. I didn't want to say it out loud.
Do it, Martin. You do it.
I really want to feel it. That's a little too much there, but I'm just saying, going back to that similar type of well, and that's what Ozu did here, and he did it very well. Both films, I think, are very good. Both films are they cover the same plot. It's the same plot. So let's see. This doesn't really tell much of a plot here.
Well, let's move on. We don't have to.
We don't. I don't want to give the plot away.
Sift through the whole thing.
It's dealing with similar things that you've seen throughout his work. It's dealing with family drama, stuff like that. Family drama, human drama, regret, all kinds of interesting cultural things in there as well. Basically, somebody who's the leader of an acting troupe comes back to basically a place that he was before, and he reacquaints himself with his old flame. And turns out they have a son, but the son doesn't know that that's his father. So he only thinks it's his uncle. So they have this kind of father-son relationship, but there's that secret going on between them and stuff, and it gets exposed and all the drama that goes around that. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. But moving on, Stephen, we do have some other things here.
Let's see. We next one we'll talk about is Girl Fight. Girl Fight is directed by Karen Kusama, and I was looking at her work, and it's a name I've heard, but I hadn't really looked into her work. She's done a lot of good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's worked on Yellow Jackets, which is a great show.
I do
She
watch it as well.
Yeah, and she did the film with Nicole Kidman, which I think was one of her best performances in a long
Oh,
time.
Destroyer.
The Destroyer, yeah.
Nobody talks about that movie.
Yeah,
I thought it was
just
really good.
it's really cool movie, cool like neo-noir movie. She did Master of Sex series. She's been on that series. She's done The Invitation, which was that horror movie, cult horror movie kind of thing now from Netflix. And then she did Jennifer's Body, which is of course got cult status now.
There's been a reevaluation of Jennifer's Body over the last
Yeah.
several years. That's been very interesting.
Most definitely.
And that was that's a movie that's gotten like I said, a lot of reevaluation, a lot more praise now. Girl Fight is actually her first movie.
It is. It is. I was gonna say before we get to Girl Fight, before that she did Aeon Flux. Not great. But everybody has a misstep in their career.
You know what's crazy? I've never seen the movie, but I own the original animated series on DVD. It was an MTV animated series from the 90s. That's what Aeon Flux is based on. Very interesting stuff. Back in the 90s when MTV did like cool programming, not nowadays, which I don't even know what they do now.
16 and pregnant. That's it.
I don't even know. Do they? That's what they still do?
I
It's
don't
been
know.
so many years since I've seen it.
It's mostly reality stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, they were doing cool stuff back then. But Karen Kusama, like I just said, this is her first film. Really cool film. It's an indie film, starring very young Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes.
Before anyone really knew who she was, before she had any breakout roles. So bullied by her father at home and feeling adrift at school, Diana Guzman, Michelle Rodriguez, finds refuge in an unexpected pocket of her native Brooklyn, a time-worn boxing gym where she learns to channel her strength, discovers a sense of community, and falls for a rival fighter. Yes, so it's like I don't know if we would say a coming-of-age film. I guess it does have those tropes in it, but it is about a young person figuring out their life in an unconventional way.
Yeah.
Because of course there's the whole sexist thing, women can't be boxers and all that kind of stuff, of course, in here. She's going to get some familial pushback in the film as well for doing the boxing. It's a really good film. And for years, I think it's only been available on DVD. Yeah. I don't think this movie has seen the light of day on Blu-ray ever. And I say that as I'm typing it into IMDb, and good, I've been vindicated. It has not seen the light of day. But like I said, it does have a DVD release from 2004.
Now, would you say this pairs well with something like Love and Basketball? Like sport movie mixed with a relationship movie?
Yeah. That does work well with Love and Basketball.
Yeah.
Love and Basketball, I think, is a better film.
Yeah.
Better film in the sense like just a bigger budget, better framing with the story and stuff like that, and just better storytelling. But they do pair well together. This film is more about an individual as opposed to, I think, Love and Basketball is about two individuals going on for a specific life journey.
$1 Million Baby.
Very similar to $1 Million Baby. Yeah. Not only the boxing element, but the idea of journey of self-discovery and things like that, channeling yourself through this action of boxing.
To be honest, the plot seems very similar to $1 Million Baby to me.
Now that I think about it, you're right. Actually, you know what's interesting? I don't own that movie in my collection. At least I don't think I do. I don't own $1 Million Baby.
And that movie came out 2 years later after or 2 or 3 years later after
2004, I want to say 2005.
Yeah. So are we thinking Clint Eastwood stole?
Wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised just because, how many people would do that without even thinking? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, this was a super low budget indie movie, so
apparently that's not how you spell it. Yeah,
probably thought, nobody's gonna see this movie. I can just steal the idea.
But it's also like,
just kidding.
Boxing, you've taken the boxing idea and utilized it for
boxing story is so.
It's been done.
It's been done so many times.
I'm thinking Rocky right now in my head.
Yeah, like so many movies. It's not honestly sports movies in general.
there's a rubric in sports movies that are kind
Yeah.
of overdone. Um,
And
that's
and
why
if
you
you
don't see a lot of them now.
and if you move it too much, then it becomes just not a sports movie anymore. Like there's got to be so much sport in the sports movie for it to be a sports movie. If you take too much sport out of it, like it's like the movie The Perfect Game with Kevin Costner. It's like
Okay.
that's borderline not a sports movie to me because most of the movie is actually like a drama relationship movie.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
that's the Sam Raimi movie, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Sam
Yeah.
Raimi, but it's frameworked around him pitching a perfect game. So it goes back to him pitching every once in a while, but most of the movie is like flashbacks to like his life,
Right.
So it's like, but yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it, but this film, but I want to see it, and it feels like Michelle Rodriguez, her kind of vibe throughout the rest of her career has been this movie.
Yeah, she has fit in a specific role of
It's like
being
a
a
badass.
very physical badass
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Like that's kind of been her thing. The Fast and Furious movies. She was in
SWAT.
Avatar.
She was in SWAT.
Yeah. So it's kind of did set her up for the rest of her career in a
Yeah,
way. Very
it did.
interesting. But there is a box set we have here as well.
Yes, I was gonna do that one
Oh, do
last.
you want to do Anatomy of a Fall first?
Yeah, Anatomy of Fall, which is of course a new film that just is nominated for Best Picture this year, the
It is.
Oscars. So, and this is a French film, um, very good. I saw it. It's essentially a murder mystery courtroom drama story,
Very much so.
and where a
And
situation plays out, and with a woman who's a writer and husband that's, I believe, wasn't he like an artist of some type as well, a painter or something.
I think he was also a writer.
And maybe he was, but
Yes.
he tragically dies, and the way he dies is
Is
kind of like
suspect.
suspect, and so yeah, it becomes an investigation and turns into kind of like almost the other side of like 12 Angry Men in the courtroom type of like you get like full on courtroom like
Yeah,
happenings in the
the
second
heart,
half.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then the heart of the film is you do get flashbacks to the relationship um between the two characters,
yeah,
um I'm completely blanking on her name, and I was just talking about her earlier today, in Anatomy of a Fall, because she's also nominated for an Oscar for acting, and she's stunning in the film. Sandra Huller
yeah,
or Huller, um, yeah, she's amazing in the film, and um, she plays Sandra Voiter, who is she's kind of on trial, but she's kind of not. But they're treating her as if she's on trial,
yeah.
so you just see the anguish of the stress of all of it like compounding upon her. Then you also see the backstory of her relationship with her husband and how strained that was. Amazing scenes of them two going at each other, arguing and
Yeah,
stuff.
and in the middle of it
Oh,
is their blind son.
yes. And once again, it's one of those stories where kind of plucked out of real life where the child is caught in the middle of the chaos.
Yeah,
He's amazing in the film as well.
yeah, yeah.
The dog, there's a dog in the movie, and the dog is going around doing like a press tour now at places, and it's amazing. Letterbox just posted an interview they did of him where Letterbox always asks people what their 4 favorite movies are, so they asked the dog what his 4 favorite movies are.
Huh,
And it's
huh.
very fascinating. One of them is Best in Show, the Christopher Guest film, of course.
Of course.
Of course. Just incredible
Air
stuff.
Bud, Air Bud in there.
I don't know. I retweeted it out on my Twitter.
How about Dog Eats Man?
It was very specific films. Specific in that I think it was films that Sandra Huller was in, coincidentally.
Mm,
Um, wow, yeah, this website is absolute trash now, Steven. Um,
wow,
yeah.
hot
So
take.
I'm trying to get to my profile so I can see what I've been doing, and they're just like, no, I can't do it. Oh, there it is. Because I'm clicking on my profile picture on Twitter, and it's not taking me to my profile.
Maybe your computer's trash,
Oh,
or maybe your
probably.
internet's
Jeez,
trash.
they
Jeez.
really did this. Okay. Um, yeah. What if website that went completely into the dump? Twitter/X. But yeah, so Anatomy of a Murder is a great film. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's really good. I know some people may not like it. Um, Maybe they'll think it's a little too stiff, a little too stagey.
It's a little long too,
Yeah, also it's a little long for a film that literally that was the premise we're just going to. And it's a movie that is, you know, really interesting. But yeah,
Yeah, it's solid. But what you were alluding to earlier, you
hold
did
on.
get a box set of 3 films, 3 revolutionary films by, Osman, Sabine.
Yeah, Usman Sabine. I do have the four movies that the dog chose. Unchien Andalou, which is that's a deep cut.
Yeah,
Um, The Power of the Dog,
of course.
Tony Erdmann, and Best in Show. This dog has great cinematic taste, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
can't wait to see what he's in next.
But back to what you were saying. Um, I wanted to make sure to get that out just because that was important news.
It's
But
important to you, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ousmane Sembene. Um, I got to watch the first film of this
Okay.
set, and
Amadi?
yeah, Ematai,
Amatai?
yeah, Ematai, Zala, and Seto, Seto. These are all films from the 1970s, and these are all films dealing with um Senegalese culture and politics and stuff like that. He's a Senegalese filmmaker, and he's making very Senegal centric films dealing with kind of colonialism, post colonialism in Senegal, and they're very incredible films because they're so specific to the subject matter.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have to be specifically politically inclined or historically inclined. It does help, but you don't have to be to kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah.
The films are very raw and very guerrilla style when it comes to how they're made, and um,
Well,
just
I would assume
interesting.
even if you don't know what's necessarily going on in the context, it probably, by watching this film, makes you want to investigate,
Yeah,
you
it
know?
makes you at least because they're shot like almost documentary style.
Yeah.
Specifically, the first film, specifically Amatai, seems like a documentary at times, in my
I mean,
opinion.
it makes me think about, like, something like, Battle of
Yeah,
Algiers,
Battle of Algiers.
that
It's
made me want to investigate that
well,
situation
ironically, I think it was made with
around the
a
same
few
time.
years around the same time.
Yeah.
I think Battle of Algiers may have been in the 60s and this was early 70s, but it's covering similar things like colonialism, fighting back against colonialism, the long-standing effects of colonialism, and then keep in mind, we're talking only like 50 years ago, 60 years ago that these movies were made. So yeah, having blazed a trail for African filmmakers to tell their own stories on screen, Senegalese auteur Ousmane Sembene took his career-long project to unlock cinema's potential as a vehicle for social change in increasingly urgent and provocative directions in the 1970s. Searing critiques of colonialism, political corruption, patriarchal arrogance, and religious indoctrination, his 3 features from this decade, the radical call to resistance Emete, the wickedly subversive satire Zala, and the controversial historical epic Seru confirmed his standing as a fearless truth teller for whom the camera was the ultimate weapon in the fight against oppression in all forms. Which I think we've seen that happen in cinema forever.
Oh, yeah.
I One of the things that kind of baffles my mind, I think comes up a lot is people kind of kicking back against the idea that movies can be political, you know what I mean? Or movies can be depicting political things. Like there's this whole like thing now where people don't want to see that in their movies, or people think it's a negative thing or something like that. It's a whole big
Hey,
cultural war
let
we're
me let you
fighting.
know, guys, all movies are political. Almost anything
In
is
some
political.
way, they're all saying a message.
Well, there every and you can make anything political if you
Really,
want.
you
Yeah.
can. I
Yeah.
think anything that has some type of message is political in quotes. Political in the sense like it's trying to tell you something or tell something,
Yeah.
whether it be a political thing. Like it's like a
It's a
movie doesn't have
if
to
it's
be
got a
talking about like
if it's got a
the
point of view of
economics.
some kind, it's
Yeah,
you know,
there's always something going on in a movie. Movies. for the most part, there are some movies that are just pure entertainment. You know what I mean? That just don't have any message at all. Not a lot of them do, though, in my opinion. Even the
Yeah.
ones that look like they do, probably, don't. You know what I mean? Like even like sci-fi movies, there's always like a bent on like, saying like, too much science is bad science, or for example, Jurassic Park. You may look at it just a dinosaur movie, but no, it's a movie where like we probably shouldn't be cloning things that are long extinct because bad things are going to happen. You know what I mean? It's the
Well,
old island of
it's the
Dr. Moreau,
overstepping of using technology.
the overstepping of science
Yeah.
into nature and
Versus
the negative
nature. Yeah.
effects of that. That's
Yeah.
that's a political thing.
Yeah.
You know, so even something like that, which we remember with such nostalgic eyes of like T-Rexes running around, actually does have a deeper message going on in there. But these films are very much political, very much in that way. And I did want to bring up that it isn't the first time that this director has been in the Criterion Closet. He also directed the film Black Girl, which also has a
Mm.
Blu-ray release. That
Awesome.
movie is very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I didn't even know that connection. That's cool. This is going to have not a ton of features, but I think it's got a making of documentary from 1981, so that's obviously going to be really informative. And then there's a new conversation with the founder and executive director of African Film Festival and film writer Amy Saul. So yeah, I mean, it looks like it's something that will be a great discovery.
And I think this will be also a nice companion piece to the World Cinema Project box sets
Yeah.
that have been put out, because it feels like it's very much in that it would fit in those.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if these had come from there, or not. I didn't really look, but
We
they
know
would
that some of
definitely
the
fit in there.
African films, what's the one African film got its own release?
Is it Tuki Buki?
Tuki Buki, yeah. So yeah, that's cool. Love it. It's a good slate from Criterion. I like it.
It is a good slate. It's a nice mix of upgrades with new stuff.
Yeah.
Before we get to Indicator,
Okay.
there is one Severin film I do want to talk about.
Lola,
yes. So this was so Severin did announce 3 films. They announced Lola, Hotspur, and The Scavengers. And Lola was the one that was the most intriguing to me. So this is the one I concentrated on the most. It's a newer film. I think that was what really grabbed me, because typically Severin doesn't put out like brand new stuff. Maybe I'm just fudging the lines there. But Lola is a movie very unique.
Are you talking about the Birdemic films? Are pretty
Yeah,
new.
but kind of.
And the third one was like almost like completely new when it got put in that set.
I think you're right. Yeah, now that I'm thinking that.
If you want to call them movies.
Yeah, of course they also put out, that documentary that's in the All the Haunts Be Ours that was a brand new movie at the time.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But in general, they put out a lot of catalog stuff.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why Jess Franco is just running through my head right now, because he is.
Because it's what you think of when you think of Severin.
That's true. But
I'm
Lola,
sure David Gregory will love that. Yeah.
But Lola in 2022, which is rather recent. So this is an alternate history mixed with some sci-fi elements. So you got me. You got me there. I'm a history buff and I like science fiction. You combine the two, you got my attention. So
Viva Vendetta.
Yes, yeah, kind of, very much so. So this movie is also dealing with some time travel as well, which is something that also kind of gets me going a little bit. The movie is only about I think 79 minutes long. It's an hour and 19 minutes, which is 79 minutes. So in 1940, Thom and Mars have built a machine, Lola, that can intercept radio and TV broadcasts from the future, unknown to them, sharing these broadcasts, the devastating changes it will have on the future of the world, but to them, but this is completely written in garbage English. Yeah, Stephen, you gotta read what it says on IMDb. It's not a complete sentence. So what happens in the film is they build this machine called Lola, and it's got a TV screen in front of it. And they can kind of turn some knobs, turn some things, and they can see broadcasts from the future, TV broadcasts and stuff like that. Like they'll watch David Bowie on like late night TV performing, and they'll like dance around to it and love David Bowie. But what happens is they can also see what's going to happen during World War II.
Hmm.
So they start working with the British government, telling them this is where the Germans are going to attack. This is what's going to happen. And then England can kind of plan their military strategy around that. But as we know with time travel movies, or when you mess with time in any way, things can get wonky. You know what I mean? Things can change. You can mess with the fabric of time. You can mess with the fabric or the flow of events that are going to occur. And that's what ends up happening. And as we've seen in other sci-fi films, things don't go so well when those things happen. So, and it's very interesting because you see how when you think of World War II, good guys versus bad guys, you know what I mean? What happens if we had the advantage to beat the bad guys? You would think that that would be great. You would think that that would make history so much better. You beat the Nazis faster and less loss of life, all this kind of stuff. Well, what happens if you do that, but then something else happens to counteract the goodness, you know? So it becomes like a morality game, and then all kinds of things start happening. Really fascinating movie. A lot going on in 79 minutes, but I like the premise of it. And the way in which it's shot like a found footage film from the 40s. Like somebody unearthed some canisters of this film from the 40s in a barn somewhere or an attic somewhere. So when you're watching the movie, you get like the beat up version of what a 1940s film reel would look like. You get the scratches and the cigarette burns and all this kind of stuff. So whatever went to the production of the movie to make it look aesthetically like that is also pretty damn cool in my opinion. So yeah, this is a fascinating movie. I really dug it. That's why I decided to kind of pick it out and talk about it. Yeah, really
Awesome.
interesting movie. That's the way I would sell it to people like that. It's in the similar vein of something like I was thinking of the movie Primer. Remember that movie
Yeah,
Primer?
Primer. Yeah.
Time travel and stuff, kind of lower budgeted movie, kind of in that vein when it comes to playing with time travel and things like that. Um, but yeah, I really
Predestination.
what'd you say?
Remember the Ethan Hawke movie Predestination?
Yes, underrated movie.
Yeah.
That movie will twist your mind and twist your brains up
Cool
and
movie.
mess with you. What a movie! What a
Yeah.
movie! But yeah, that's Lola.
Lola.
Lola. So moving on now to Indicator, which arrived late in our email boxes last week. Um, uh, and they did push two films that they were previously going to release this month. They actually pushed them into when they pushed them even to next month.
Into March. So Patrick and Snapshot were supposed to come out, I believe February 27th, but now I think it's moved to March 25th. So I mean I haven't seen any official announcement of it, but I
Well,
would
it was in the email. That's
was
why
it
I
in
mean.
the email? Okay,
You
I missed
you
that,
scroll
but
down past past when they say, "Oh, we're going to be releasing these films in standard editions, and we're having a 3 for £20 sale." Like in that bracket, past all the announcement, it said moving title dates, something like that.
gotcha.
Um, and so they're moving those. I mean, delays happen. We know how
I
this
mean
game
it.
works.
I was excited to get them this coming probably
You
week.
probably weren't the only one because we only this is like the last. No, we have one more release day in the month, right?
I mean, it just feels
I
like
don't
so
remember.
long since I've gotten an indicator release. I have to wait all the way till end of March now, you know?
They had
Well, they have, but I'm
they had
saying I
January
haven't.
releases. Oh,
Yeah, but I didn't buy them,
oh,
so
okay. I was
I'm
trying to
saying I
remember.
have to wait even longer for more indicators, what I'm saying,
Gotcha,
you
gotcha.
know?
So the one box set that they're going to be releasing in May is Columbia Noir number 6. Boom. It's called The Whistler.
Yes.
Um,
And I will shout out that, we had a comment on our interview with the indicator guys, and person that commented, said that they hoped that this was gonna be the set that gets announced, and they were
nice.
right.
They were
So,
right.
yeah.
And I if I remember, my mind's a little foggy these days. I did ask if we were going to get any more Noir
You did.
sets, Columbia Noir. And they said that there was something coming, and this must be it. This is an 8-film box set. 8. And you'll be wondering why are there 8 films in here? Well, because there are 8 Whistler films.
Well, okay.
And they're all an hour long. The longest Whistler film is like 66 minutes long. You can find all of these right now on YouTube. because that's where I watched all of them. And they're all up there, and they're in okay quality on there, kind of DVD-esque, not quite public domain, poor quality, but just kind of unremastered DVD quality, I would say. Perfectly watchable on there, but these are, of course, probably going to be so much better in quality than those are. And the Whistler is interesting because like I said, I watched all 8 of these. So I kind of just went down the Whistler track. I initially was only going to watch a couple of them just to get the taste of it so I could talk about it here. And then I ended up falling. I ended up falling far.
Hey,
it was like
it's good.
It was like the old Pringles commercials. Once you pop, the fun don't stop. That was their slogan.
Oh, Jesus.
And once I popped the Whistler container, I couldn't stop. But so these are adaptations, not adaptations, but the Whistler was a radio drama series that was on the radio from 1942 to 1954. And at the time, I'm assuming Columbia Pictures, I think, owned the rights, and they decided to make movies. And Harry Cohn, who was the head of Columbia Pictures, I believe, in the 1940s, decided to hire or give the movie to the one and only William Castle. William Castle, who, of course, we know went on to make some great gimmicky-esque films later on.
The Tingler.
Of course, yeah, The Tingler and stuff like that, and Sardonicus and all those cool stuff. Indicator has 2 box sets of those available now. Well, I think they may be both out of print at this point, but you could probably still
believe
track them
they're
down.
standard editions of the releases, though. I believe.
But either way, I wasn't aware that William Castle had made a good portion of these movies.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's 8 films, and I think he directed. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Yeah. I know he directed the first 2, and then took 1 off, and then directed, I think, another 2 after that. And the movies are The Whistler, The Mark of the Whistler, The Power of the Whistler, Voice of the Whistler, Mysterious Intruder, Secret of the Whistler, The 13th Hour, and then Return of the Whistler. And the way in which I would describe these movies to people is, think of Alfred Hitchcock Presents combined with film noir.
Yeah.
It's an anthology movie series. It's not serialized in any way. But you do see kind of the same actors in most of the films who play different roles from the previous film. One of the ones is Richard Dix. He's kind of the main guy, the main actor who was in 7 out of 8 of the films, and he's usually the main character that the story revolves around, whatever that story may be. Murder mystery, whatever the case is. But they're all film noirs. So it was fascinating to me to see kind of what a television series would be before TV was really a thing. Because in the 40s, TVs didn't exist. Coincidentally, in 1954, they made a Whistler TV series that ran for 39 episodes. So it was this was a precursor to that.
Yeah.
And this was a precursor to things that we would see later on that would be anthology series. I'm thinking like Columbo. I'm thinking of things like that. Like I just said, like a Twilight Zone. Even Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which would come out in the 1950s. Really cool stuff. Not every film is great. I don't think any of them are particularly amazing work, but you're getting a very condensed, focused story in an hour-long time frame. Mm-hmm. And there's always, a setup, a middle, and an end. And the ending is usually rather abrupt, and they kind of have to like rush things to get to a certain to get to a specific conclusion. But they always get there, and it's a quick, breezy watch each film. None of them I think are terrible, but none of them I think are really amazing. Maybe other than like the first one. But you may be wondering, who is the Whistler? Well, the Whistler's not really a character. He's kind of just the narrator of the story. He shows up at the beginning. It's just this shadowy figure wearing a hat, like a wide-brimmed hat and a trench coat. You never see his face, and it's always like the same guy doing the voice narration, and he's just setting things up. So he's just setting up the show, and then he closes.
He's like the Alfred Hitchcock of Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Exactly. That's what
Yeah.
made me think of Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And he just like sets it up and then closes it out.
Yeah.
And but some of the films that he will interject a little bit. Like he will say, "Oh, this guy's in bit of an issue now." Like
who's the character in, I think it's in the Marvel universe, like the Watcher or like
the
or like
Watcher now.
yeah, you know, he's like just kind of watching the story play out and then involving himself when he wants to, you know, kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah. That's kind of just watching what's going on. That's what the Whistler does.
Yeah.
And so obviously it played very well on the radio, because you got this guy with this very distinct voice, and it kind of works on screen as well, kind of, you know, structuring the framework for each of these movies. I really, really enjoyed this a lot. I can't wait to get this box set just to dig into what the special features would be, because I'm really curious as to the legacy or the history of the Whistler series or franchise or whatever the case may be, because I knew nothing about it when it came to these movies. And yeah, it looks like we're getting audio commentaries here, as we usually get. Kim Newman showing up in a bunch of things. Yeah, there's all kinds of really cool extra features on here. Of course, an exclusive 120-page book as well. And the set is actually going to be green, which is my favorite color. So that works out double for me. So I'm all for it. Yeah, it was just a really fun journey down this Whistler track. I think people are really gonna dig it once they see these movies. Like I said, easy watching if you like film noir, if you like episodic television, which is something I think we all watch now, really. This will be something for you.
Yeah, it
So
sounds like
really
this
cool
will be
stuff.
something where you can actually, you know, like it's not an intimidating set. You know, it's a
No,
yeah,
you know, if it were 8 films that were all 2+ hours,
yeah,
that's pretty intimidating. I
yeah,
mean, it's no like, you know, Marvel Cinematic Universe here. It's it's not that. Um, but I think each story is unique, and a kind of a different, you know, setup. But they're dark stories. That's kind of what I like about them. A lot of them do deal with like murder and backstabbing and disappearances and like and police cases and stuff like that. Definitely a precursor, like I said, to a lot of stuff that would come after it.
yeah. All right, awesome. I'm excited. I already pre-ordered it, so
Nice.
it's coming to me. Well, that I think that'll do it, guys. Another fun-filled episode of Chasing Labels has come to a close. Spy number 133. I hope everybody enjoyed listening. Of course, not only is it here on YouTube, but it will be in audio form on our podcast feed, so you can look for that tomorrow.
Right.
Also, you can find us on, if you want to chat with us anywhere, you can find us in the social media area, whether it be our X page, Instagram, or you can join our film Facebook group. We'll let you in. You can talk with us there. Andrew, where you can be found?
You can find me on Twitter or X at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels, which possibly already currently watching. I do want to mention last week we did have a Valentine's Day kind of themed episode with Julia Marchese talking about her short film. Um, I Know What You Want. I believe that's the title of it. That we got to talk about like a lot of Stephen King stuff, as well as some romance films that we like and whatnot. That was a lot of fun. Of course, we showed up on, like we said earlier, on Shelf Shock Rewind Rewards. And then we're having on Watch Pile, new episode coming up this Monday, the 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, it is. All right, guys. Well, that is it for this episode. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.